Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hey, welcome back. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com. And today, I have a special guest. His name is Nathan Hirsch. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Hey, thank you for being here on the show and taking the time to speak to us, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And for the listeners, let me give you a little bit of his background so you can get to know him, and then we can dive into his journey and of entrepreneur and where he's at now. So Nathan is a 30-year-old entrepreneur that has been scaling business since 2009. Nathan Hirsch business, Portlight, sold over 30 million in sales through Amazon. Nathan then co-founder freeup.com with an initial $5,000 investment in 2015, scaled to 12 million per year in revenue, and it was acquired in 2019. Today, Nathan is a co-founder of Outsource School, a company working to educate entrepreneurs on how to effectively hire and scale with virtual assistants through in-depth courses. With all of these businesses, Nathan has hired and scaled with hundreds of virtual assistants and freelancers from all over the world. He shares his roadmap for scaling business with virtual assistants through Outsource School. Nathan has built himself into a social media personality online. He has appeared on over 3,000 plus podcasts and counting, and has spoken to thousands about remote hiring and industry events. Holy cow, man. That's like a lot of stuff going on and just 30, right? I mean, like, I don't even know where to start, so why don't you tell us more about that journey?
Yeah, I mean, I started off as a broke college kid trying to hustle. I didn't want to work for someone else. I hated having a boss. So yeah. I started selling textbooks, and I actually had some success doing that in college. But I got a cease and desist letter from my college telling me to knock it off because I was competing with their bookstore. So that was my first glimpse into being an entrepreneur. And I pivoted. I learned a little bit about Amazon, selling books on Amazon. This was 2008, 2009. So Amazon was just becoming more than a bookstore. And I started experimenting and finally came across baby products. I got in at a really good time. If you could imagine me as a 20-year-old single guy selling baby products on Amazon, that was me. And I had success and I needed to hire people, but hiring college kids were not very reliable, and no one in the real world wanted to work for me as a 20-year-old. So I started getting into the remote hiring world, the virtual assistants, really loved it. I loved the flexibility. I loved being able to talk to people in different cultures and learn and engage and use people's skill sets. And I ended up pivoting and building my own platform, FreeUp, for pre-vetted virtual assistants, pre-vetted freelancers. We scaled and actually sold that about 6 months ago, maybe 5 months ago. And we started that with $5,000 and really grew it organically over 4 years from to $1 million, $5 million, $9 million, and then $12 million a year. And then once we sold that and finished the transition, we wanted to stay in the space and we wanted to teach people how we did it, because FreeUp was an 8-figure business completely run by virtual assistants. Wow. And we had systems and processes. So now we're working on Outsource School to bring courses and software to help people utilize virtual assistants.
Wow, that's amazing. And so let me ask you this before getting into your journey of entrepreneur. So how was your life growing up? Like, did you had that influences of business owner, or was that even part of your bloodline?
Kind of. I mean, my parents were both teachers. My mom ended up pivoting from being a teacher to starting a nonprofit school. So there was some business in there, and she was a hard worker and she built it up from scratch. But I think the overall mentality of my childhood was go to school, go to college, get a real job, work for 30 years, retire, have health insurance and all of that. But I mean, my aunt was an entrepreneur, and I remember back when I graduated college, I had a tough decision to make because I had job offers that had benefits, and then I had my Amazon business, and no one really knew what Amazon was. And I remember talking to her for guidance, and my parents were definitely leaning in the direction of getting the job, although they would support me either way. And my aunt was much more, hey, take a risk now. You're young. You can always go out and get a real job if it fails. And I'm fortunate enough that I had that conversation and went in that direction.
Yeah, no, and you know what? And that's actually a pretty good experience that you went through, right? A lot of people I know that they go through that, and they're in the fence line of what can I do? Because even me growing up as a kid, one of the things that I was, exactly the same thing you talked about is, go to school, get a good education, come out, have a good job, and then be there forever. And then when I look at that, at least for me, and I think you can relate to this, is that I feel that we're in this world to not just be, that kind of person. We're put in this world to do something bigger and greater and have a bigger purpose. And so that's why I decided to do the same thing and just kind of venture out and take a risk. Obviously, my risk was a little bit later down the line than yours, except I think that it's never too late to start. So what would be one of the things that you can tell people that are listening that regardless of their age, is never too late to start something, if they wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the coronavirus, I mean, we live in a pretty incredible time right now. I mean, it doesn't take very much money to start a business. I'm actually reading a book right now called The $100 Startup, and it's really exactly what I've been doing. I mean, I've started 3 companies, and each company cost me less than $5,000. So you don't need $50,000. You don't need $100,000. You're always taking a risk when you're an entrepreneur, but you don't need to take huge risks. You can take small risks and get a company off the ground. Now, it's not easy. There's no get-rich-quick scheme. There's hard work. There's hustle. There's learning. There's making mistakes and learning from it. But if you find something you're passionate about that other people want, that other people need, you can turn it into a business relatively quickly. I mean, think about going back like 40 years ago, just being able to accept payments was tough, and you needed an office. And now you open up a PayPal account and you're open for business. People can send you money. You can accept credit cards, and it really is that simple. So if you have an idea, with a small amount of money, you can get set up, you can get going and start that journey and see if it's right for you.
Right. Got it. And so going back to you deciding to start your own business and deciding on whether or not you go back to school, you go back, get that job, or you can continue with this journey that you had already started. What were some of the challenges that you were facing, as an entrepreneur starting up and deciding not to work for somebody else?
The challenges I was facing. I mean, I was young. No one really took me seriously. So being a manager and a leader was definitely tough. I think the whole e-commerce world was new. So there weren't any courses or gurus or guides or playbooks or anything like that. So it was a lot of experimenting, and even stuff that's available to e-commerce sellers now, like Amazon software. We partner with Helium 10, which is a great Amazon software. Like that didn't exist back then. So it was a lot of manual work and trial and error and learning. And honestly, that's what I enjoy. The part I enjoy of being an entrepreneur. I never like to go out and copy what other people are doing. There's a certain sense of learning from what other people are doing, but sometimes you need to throw stuff against the wall and see what actually works for your business. So that's kind of my approach.
Got it. Yeah, and I like that. I have a mentor too. His name is Marshall Silver, and he kind of says something very similar. Just keep throwing noodles into the wall and see what sticks, and just continue to do that, right? It's just the same thing you're talking about, is just continue to push forward. And out of all those, I guess, downfalls or times that you fell down, do you see that as a lesson, as a failure? How do you compute that in your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a lesson, whether it's a failure or not. I mean, it depends on what you do long term. But I had a situation where I put all my eggs in one basket. I had one manager of the day that I spent 6 months training him on my entire business. I had one manufacturer who I did all my sales from, and I went on vacation and the manufacturer dropped me and the manager quit on me. So I kind of lost everything within 24 hours. And I learned a very valuable lesson about diversification. So yes, I built it back up. Yes, it sucked. Yes, it cost me time and energy and stress, but I'm happy I learned that lesson early on, so that now when I'm on my third company, I can diversify right from the beginning and not put myself in that position where I'm one bad thing away from just stopping all operations.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then talking about companies, right? How critical it is for either now, specifically nowadays, to have more than one business as an entrepreneur.
I mean, honestly, I kind of do the opposite. I've always been focused on one business. It's kind of my personality. When we sold FreeUp, Connor and I started experimenting with like a few different things, and we ended up loving Outsource School more, and we put all the other things to the side and focused on it. So I think there's pros and cons. I mean, obviously the diversification is great, but you also have a lot of entrepreneurs out there that because they have multiple businesses, they're very distracted, their time is spread thin, and none of the businesses accomplish what one of the businesses could if they just worked on that. So I think it's something for everyone to just consider.
Got it. Yeah. So tell me more about this Outsource School. So you started that not too long ago, and the idea here is to teach people, entrepreneurs, how to use the virtual assistants, right? Can you give me more about that?
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand that just getting a VA for 10 hours a week can completely change your business and your life. And I mean, we live in a time now where you kind of need to do a little self-reflecting as a business owner. And what can I do to reduce future overhead, to have a more flexible remote workforce now that we're kind of locked in? So for me, teaching people how to use VAs was important before this. It's even more important after this. And we want to teach people exactly how we did it. I mean, I didn't just wake up one day and hire 35 VAs and cross my finger and hope it worked out. We had real systems for interviewing and onboarding and training and managing. So we took all those systems and we launched our first course called Cracking the VA Code, which people can get on Outsource School. And it walks you through it. And we're there to support you along the way so you can start delegating and really actually scale your business. Then off of that, we're coming out with other courses. Like we're launching the podcast outreach formula, because every day I wake up to a list of podcasts that are a good fit in my industry, and then I can reach out to those hosts and I get on a lot of podcasts. So we're going to teach people how to set that up with the VA so that they know our system, our process. You wake up every day to that list. And then we're going to come up with other courses like how to use VAs for lead generation, how to use VAs for bookkeeping, and keep building on that so that you can apply VAs and everything we've learned in different parts of your business. And then the second component, which comes down a little later, is software. We're building a lot of VA software and tools, including an SOP builder that we think is going to making things a lot easier for people to train their virtual assistants. But right now, we're very focused on these courses that we're launching.
Got it. And is this applicable to really any business, or is it a particular industry that you're targeting?
It really applies to every business, which is why I really like it. I mean, there was a sushi restaurant down the street when I ran FreeUp that they use virtual assistants. They were a client of ours. My gym used as a virtual assistant. And obviously you've got Amazon sellers, you got marketing agencies, you got coaches and consultants. So I mean, now more than ever, when we're all locked inside and the world's going a little bit more remote, it's never more evident that VAs can apply to every single business, no matter what you're in.
Right. And I know that one of the challenges that maybe people might have as entrepreneurs is, one, the time difference, the language barriers, or maybe those are just obstacles. Where do your VAs come from? Is it, it's kind of like the same time zone? Is it, I know most of them are, back in Asia. Is that a big challenge that you see?
I hire from all over. I mean, my graphic designer that I love, she's from India, but I would say most of my virtual assistants are in the Philippines. I built great relationships with people in the Philippines, so I know their community, I know their culture very well. There's a lot of pros to hire in the Philippines, from cost to their family environment, which makes it great for you to build like an internal family, to they consume a lot of the same culture and media that we do, so like books and movies. So if you're selling a U.S. product or a U.S. service, there's less of a learning curve. So there's a lot of pros, but I mean, you can hire all over the world. I just personally prefer hiring from the Philippines.
Yeah. And one thing that I know people might be thinking is that this could be pretty expensive. And I know for the fact that that's not expensive, for somebody in the Philippines that maybe you're paying them, I don't know, an average of $8, let's just say, per hour. That might seem like, is probably below the federal standards here. Yet for them over there, you're really changing their lives, right? I mean, that $8 per hour, it's a lot more than what they're making probably per week or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, minimum wage in the Philippines is $12 a day, so it's not tough to beat that. At the same time, I believe in treating VA as well. When I sold Free Up, we had team leaders that were making over $20 an hour. And when we sold Free Up, we took $500,000 from the sale and gave it to our team in the Philippines to thank them for helping us build an awesome business that we were able to sell. So yes, you can start at a low rate. That doesn't mean that you can't increase it over time. It doesn't mean that you can't give raises and bonuses. And if you sell your company, give them a percentage of it. But yeah, I mean, a great VA for $5 an hour can completely change your business, but also completely change their life and put them in a much better situation in their country.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so one thing that I was listening to you on a different podcast, and you were talking about really kind of empowering and taking a different approach, not necessarily just a business aspect of it, more of the humanitarian aspect of that. So I want to know more about that, right? Because obviously you're doing a lot of great things at your age, and you're definitely building a great business model. There has to be something bigger that I want to understand more of your purpose and your passion and your intention, right?
Yeah. And I mean, with Outsource School, we're donating a percentage of all sales to Teach for the Philippines, which is a great charity that provides education to Filipino children that we're really excited about. And yeah, you're absolutely right. There is a certain why and a certain purpose that comes into business. And with my first company, the Amazon business, to be honest, there was no why. I mean, who was I helping? I was helping myself. I was helping my team. I was helping my manufacturers. And that's really it. And that business got boring after a while. We didn't like it. There was no long-term vision or goal. And when we started Free Up and we started helping clients pursue their passion and be entrepreneurs and pursue their dreams and scale their business using VAs, that was awesome. When we talked to the VAs and the freelancers and they were showing us their houses and their cars and how they were able to provide for their family by the millions of dollars that we were able to pay out to them, that was rewarding. And we want to take the same thing to Outsource School. We want people that take our courses to be able to scale their business and get more time in the day back to go spend time with their family or do whatever they want to do. And same thing on the VA side. We plan on being a big part of the community, and we think that it benefits them as well, not to mention that charity. So I think having a purpose and people that you care about so that when you get to the top, you're all there together is incredibly important. And I actually just hired a VA this morning that's going to be working with me on Outsource School. And I'm getting her to buy into the vision. And as we grow, I'm going to increase her pay and I'm going to make her feel a part of it. And it hopefully benefits her just as much as it benefits me. So you really want to create those win-win-wins across the board.
Yeah, I really love that. I mean, I think that's very, very, very passionate. And at the end of the day, I think Zig Ziglar said, if you give enough people what they want, you will get everything that you want, right? Or something to that extent. And that's exactly what you're doing, right? You're helping a lot of people. You're creating, again, those win-win situations. And that's what really counts at the end of the day, right? Now, obviously, you have a lot going on. So I'm curious to know, what are some of the habits that you do on a day-to-day basis or you've done in your past that have gotten you to this state of mind, right? Because you have to be very focused, driven. You have to be very disciplined to be able to do the things you're doing. So what are some things that you've done or doing?
Yeah. So for me, and I learned this a few years ago, is I find out what time in the day I'm most productive. And for me, it's between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. And I get my biggest projects done at that time every single day. I also figured out that I can take a break at 9 and go to the gym for an hour and crush it and work out hard there, and then come back and get like another great hour of productivity before I dive into the podcast and the webinars and the stuff that isn't my highest priority of the day. Not that it's not important, but right. I figured out, hey, I do podcasts better in the afternoon, not the second after I wake up. I do projects much better the second after I wake up. I also meditate once a day, which is a great way to refresh my brain and get focused. I mentioned that I work out. Health is very important to me. I mean, I eat 95% vegetarian. I avoid fast food. I don't drink soda. I rarely drink alcohol. So there's a certain health factor that goes into it. And reading books is obviously important. Most great entrepreneurs read books. And I personally read a lot of business books. So I think all of those things, not alone, but together, contribute more and more to the percentage increase of success.
Yeah. And that's critical for the listeners to take on and really take away, is that, again, you have to build some disciplines. Tony Robbins describes them as rituals, right? You have to create something. And one thing you also mentioned is not so much about time management, because a lot of people are talking about the time management. It's more about priority management, I think, right? And so you're prioritizing the things that are more important during your 24 hours, wherever that time frame is, putting things into perspective when things work better for you and how they really fall into your day-to-day activities, which is pretty awesome. So besides doing the things you're doing right now and the rituals and things like that, or the habits that you're doing, do you what do you do for and reading, obviously, do you do anything for continuous improvement, self-education? Because I know that's critical. I mean, there's the non-traditional and the traditional side of it, and I know that a lot of entrepreneurs, or at least myself, I take the non-traditional, whether it's mentorship or things like that. Do you do any of that stuff?
I've never hired a mentor. I do try to learn things on the side. So like stock market, real estate, those are things that I enjoy doing. And I'm constantly learning and following and listening to podcasts about. So I think that when I'm not, from a business side, when I'm not focused on free up and I'm focused on self-improvement, it's usually around those two things, or it's around health, learning about how to have different exercises, how to eat even better, stuff like that.
Oh, got you. Yeah, and that's one thing that I know is critical too. Is I believe that one of the most important vehicles that you can have is your body, and so you have to feed the right stuff to your body. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do anything, right? And that's exactly what you're doing. And in terms of what is it in the vision for you? What are you planning to accomplish in the next 6 months to a year?
I mean, I want to grow free up. I want to grow Outsource School to the size of free up. I mean, that's my goal. I mean, and just because you have success with one business doesn't necessarily mean you'll have success in future businesses. So I think we're still in the proving the concept stage. And so far the response has been positive. And we want to build this out to be a full-blown education platform with lots of great courses, lots of software. Maybe we add on different things like coaching and memberships and stuff like that. But I'm more curious to see how this all comes together, and I like the position we're in, and that's really my main focus, is to build Outsource School to the team, to the way that Free Up was, and even build a team inside Outsource School of rockstar virtual assistants, just like we had at Free Up.
Got you. And is this going to be more driven to like more educational aspect, right? The Outsource School is really just to educate entrepreneurs to really build upon virtual assistants, or you're also going to be helping people? Let's say if I want to come to you and say I want to hire VAs through you, are you doing that, or is mostly educational?
We are not providing VAs or VA services or training VAs or anything like that. For that, people can go to Free Up. We're strictly on the educational and software side.
Got it. Okay. And then in terms of, besides the outsource, is there anything else that you're trying to accomplish in the next couple of months, or this is really your primary focus?
Yeah, I mean, this is my primary focus. I mean, I'm trying not to go crazy over the next few months. That's also a goal. But yeah, I mean, right now we have our head down. I mean, there's not much to do besides work on your businesses if you're an entrepreneur. So we're trying to build as many high quality courses as we can. So whenever this does blow by, we're set up, we're in a good place, and then we can move forward.
Yeah, and by the way, as the time right now, the recording of this video, we're in the times of, or the stages of the virus. So Nathan, what are some I guess tips that you can give people, right? Because right now we're really secure to our home, that they can do right now to either become better people or build upon sort of a business or something. What are some advices that you can give people instead of just watching and sitting, and watching TV?
Yeah. So what I do is I try to network with 3 new people every morning. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. Reach out to people on Facebook, on Instagram, other entrepreneurs. Don't try to pitch them. Don't try to sell them. Just learn about their business. See how you can add value. If there's a way to work together, great. And over time, you're going to look back and be like, wow, my network has grown. You're going to learn a lot from other people. You're going to avoid a lot of the mistakes that other people have already made. And you're going to build some great relationships and friends. So that is an easy thing you can do every morning. Takes 15 minutes, and you're going to be better for it long term.
No, and is that just going, through certain profiles, random people, and you just kind of drop in them a message, introduce yourself, or to that extent?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to make it too random. I mean, for example, I might see who else has been on this podcast, and I'll reach out to them and say, hey, I was on Cesar's podcast too. So you're always like 1 or 2 connections away from a lot of people, and you can use that to build your network.
I really love that, because I know that a lot of times people tend to spend time on just, scrolling up or down on that Facebook to see what kind of stuff is going on, rather than using that time. Take that time to really network and do that. And I hate when people do, because I have gotten people that come to my message, and the first thing they do is they don't even introduce them, so they're already pitching me an idea or a product or something like that. And I think that's definitely their own way to approach somebody. And every time I get that, I just say, you know what, I don't want to definitely, if this is how you're doing business now, like how can you do business down the line, right? So I like the fact that you're saying make sure that you're not pitching anything or selling anything. It's more networking and getting to be able to connect with that person down the line and see what you guys can do together. Now, besides that, any other tips that you can give our listeners in terms of things they can do now?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's all about priorities, right? We're stuck inside. They focus on what can you do behind the scenes of your business? Restructure your business if possible. I was talking to Mark Hargrove, the guy who bought FreeUp, and they're focused on their internal processes. They want to know that once they get out of this, they have their internal stuff intact. So if you can't focus on sales, if you can't market like you would have, if you have to focus on restructuring, rebuilding, making your systems, processes stronger, documenting, and then you're going to be in really great shape when all this is over.
Yeah, and I think too that regardless of whether or not you're an entrepreneur or not, you have to take this time, utilize this time to reinvent yourself, whether it's through personal development, whether it's coming up with a new product, whether it's, like you said, creating procedures or things to that effect. And if you don't take that opportunity right now to do that during this downtime, then when you're ready for the up time, there's nothing for you to do, right? Like at the end of the day, you just wasted a lot of valuable time. And so I know for people that might say, well, I'm not an entrepreneur, I don't have a business, I work 9 to 5. Again, you can do things for yourself, whether it's eating better, whether it's reading, whether it's creating habits that are going to empower you to become that better person, right? So you have to be able to do something, and if you don't, you're really truly wasting some of that valuable time.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, all we have now is time, so make the most of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so, if people wanted to connect with you or wanted to learn more about Outsource School, where can they find you, and how can people get into that platform?
Yeah, so I'm one of the easiest entrepreneurs to contact online. Nathan Hirsch on Facebook, on LinkedIn, the real Nate Hirsch on Instagram and Twitter. Go to outsourceschool.com, join our newsletter, follow our journey. If you go to outsourceschool.com/VA calculator, we have this awesome tool that you can use to figure out how many VAs you can afford right now. And I look forward to helping a lot of people.
No, that's awesome. And Nathan, one last question for you. If and you've given us a lot of tips, by the way, so I don't know if you're going to have one more, but if you can give us one more tip on to our listeners on being able to accomplish anything and overcome anything in their life, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, you can't I get rejected every single day. Failure is like a part of business. And if you're not getting rejected, you're not putting yourself out there, whether it's pitching podcasts, whether it's reaching out to influencers, whether it's trying to network, whether it's trying to land that next client. You should be constantly putting yourself out there. Use those failures to learn, to tweak, to adjust. And over time, you're going to forget all the failures. You're going to be much more focused on your successes.
Yeah. And I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Gary Vee or somebody. They said, if you're not pissing off people, then you're not really doing anything, to get yourself out there or something like that. I forget who it was, right? But it's true, right? If you're not getting on people's faces and you're not pissing them off or you're not helping them out, whatever the case may be, you're not doing anything to better yourself, right? So, yeah. So Nathan, I had a great time talking to you, and I really appreciate you coming onto the show and sharing some of your knowledge and wealth and all your success that you've gone through to now. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, have a good one. And guys, for the rest of you guys, do me a favor. Please make sure that you like this podcast, comment, share, like it, and just stay tuned for the next podcast show. Bye.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you tuned in to this podcast. You can find me at Spreaker.com, where you can like and subscribe. And to learn more about myself and my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com Or you can also find me at Facebook under Cesar R. Espino. Once again, thanks for joining me. I am looking forward to having you at the next episode, and know that you truly can overcome anything.